recording. Okay, I think we're recording and I'm going to broadcast. All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Maggie Ostara. I'm delighted that you're here, and I'm welcoming you to the last webinar on the superpowers of the 5 human design types. And so we've been going through a whole series of webinars talking about the different human design types. And today we're going to talk about reflectors. And reflectors are actually a really important part of our community. And if you are fortunate enough to know a reflector, have a reflector close to you in your life or in your community, I really encourage you to get to know that person and to find out about them, because they are very special, unique, and important individuals. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that we are streaming over here on Facebook. Okay, there we are. So I'm just going to ask you to go ahead, if you're on Facebook or if you're on Zoom, to just say hello in the chat and just say, yes, I can see you and hear you. Every once in a while, we have an issue with that. Okay, great. Oh, wonderful. We've got a reflector here with us today. Welcome, Sandy. Welcome. Glad to have a reflector. It'll be interesting to hear from you about what I have to say, because you're more of an expert on being a reflector than I am. So go ahead, don't be shy. There's lots more people on Zoom than are currently saying hello. And for those of you who might be there on Facebook, go ahead and say hello and just let me know. I can see you and I can hear you. I'm just gonna say that in here and where you're from. People can be so shy. All right, so hello, Shelly, who's a manifestor. Hello, Catherine. I can see it. Okay, good. And she's from Vermont. She's a 4/6 projector. Yeah, and Sandy says, I work at listening in, so I'll do my best. Okay, great. Excellent. So I'm excited to be here today. I'm just thinking about if I will go over this in the slides again, just briefly, but I want to let you know kind of what's going to be happening with our Wednesday webinars. So they're going to be changing starting from today. This is the last of our regular webinars on noon on Wednesdays. Next week, we're not going to have a webinar. I am going to be doing my best to go and get a little R&R. In the last week of August, I do live in Northern California, and we've had quite a few fires here, which fortunately are coming under management in a really responsible way by CAL FIRE, and so that's really great. But I had a camping trip planned, which I think isn't going to happen, but I'm hoping to get away some other way. Anyway, so I won't be here next week. But then the week after that, we're going to start a new series that's going to happen every other Wednesday, called Sovereign Sister Salons. And I will be interviewing different women in their area of expertise and talking about different areas of sovereignty in our life. And some of these women will know about human design. Our very first speaker does, but some of them not so much. And I will do some work with them ahead of time to be looking at how human design will influence what they might be thinking about in terms of what they're going to be sharing. I'm really delighted that our first speaker, her name is Valencia Ray, Dr. Valencia Ray, and she's going to be speaking about health sovereignty. Actually, both of our first 2 speakers are going to be speaking about health sovereignty, but in different areas. And Valencia is going to be talking about the immune system and our tendency to get overexhausted. And she has studied human design rather extensively. So we will be looking at the interface of kind of holistic medicine. She is a functional medicine doctor. She used to be an ophthalmologist. She is a medical doctor, a trained medical doctor, but she's also a functional medicine doctor, which means a lot of different things depending on, you know, your background and so on. But she's working a lot with women in particular around our burnout and around adrenal fatigue and hormonal changes and things like that, and really helping us get in alignment, get strong, get stable, being able to take a hold of our sovereignty in terms of our health, which is huge, no matter what age you are. You know, I've had a teenager who's had a chronic illness for years. And then a lot of women who are in their menopausal, premenopausal time, but then women in child rearing age, whether you have kids or not. So wherever we are, we need support. And so I hope you'll tune in for that. That we will start meeting at 1 o'clock instead of noon. So all of this I will be posting in our Facebook group, and I will be sending you an email about it, but just letting you know that we're going to be morphing. And I haven't decided what teaching I might do on the opposite, or if in fact we'll just be moving into interview mode and be doing the sovereignty salon. So if you have a desire or a request for me to teach in a particular area around sovereignty, personal sovereignty, feminine sovereignty, and how human design relates to that, or in other areas, then please do let me know. You can message me on Facebook, you can send me an email, however you want to reach out. I'm always happy to hear from you. Okay. All right, great. Yes, okay. Oh, hi, and here's Kia from Sweden. Oh, I love that. All right. Oh, and also just Kia, so you know, and for everyone, all of these Facebook Lives that I've been doing that are also available via Zoom are all available. The recordings of them are in the Sovereignty by Design Facebook group. And so you can find them there. You just go to the video tab and they're all in there. Okay, so if you missed any of the ones, and I've been doing them really since the pandemic started. I think I started in March, late March, or maybe it was April, early April. I don't remember exactly when I started, but it was around that time. It was pretty early, and I started talking about resiliency because that was like the first topic I wanted to dive into. But we've ranged in a variety of different topics, and have definitely looked at superpowers, have looked at fear and emotions, and the types and so on. So go and check it out. And oh, okay, Kia, we will go, we'll do that. We'll let you into the group. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and, okay, I'm going to see what time it is. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bring up slides, and do please add comments, if you will, in the chat as we go through, and know that we will have time for interaction later on. And whatever your type is, it's totally fine. Like, don't feel if you're not a reflector that you can't participate. Sometimes people have that idea, and that's not the way I hold it at all. I actually have been encouraging everyone to learn about all the types, because the truth is we all have all the types in our lives. And so even if you're not a reflector, it's good for you to know about reflectors. Even though reflectors are 1% of the population, still, when you think about the population, that's a lot of people, okay? And so, I mean, even for me, I live in a town of 8,000 people, right? Well, 1% of the population is 80 people, still, a significant number of people. So you want to just realize that you have all the different types, even though we live in a kind of generator dominated world in terms of our energy as generators, whether pure generators or manifesting generators, because we're 70% of the population. We also live in a kind of manifestor dominated world because we've all been trained to be manifestors. Okay. But projectors are here to be the leaders of the new world that's now unfolding. So projectors are super vital. And we as generators, whatever type of generator we are, really need to have projectors in our lives, orchestrators in our lives, who are helping us to be able to see the big picture and know how to make sure that what we're building and the hard work that we're doing, because we're the workers of the world, are really on track. So, and then the reflectors are helping us to know what is the health of our community, right? And so whatever your type is, you need to know about the other ones, and you need to know what their superpowers are so that you can know what you can go to them for and what you can support them around. Because a lot of times our superpowers, whatever our types are not things that are well recognized and appreciated, and acknowledged and supported in our culture, which has a pretty narrow view of success, of empowerment, of how we're supposed to behave. It doesn't allow in all different kinds of intuition, for example. That's still on the margins. I mean, more and more we're starting to talk about intuition, but if you go out into the mainstream, intuition is not something that's really highly supported. And so all of the types have their own form of intuition. And one of the things I love about human design is that there's all kinds of intuition throughout the chart. So that's just a little preface to all about that. Okay. All right, great. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into what I wanted to present for today. And then we will come back and have interaction and questions. I always love to hear what you received out of the conversation that we had. So please do share about that piece. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, there we are. All right. Okay, so today we are talking about reflector superpowers. And I went over some of these announcements already. I want to just reiterate replays of all of the webinars that I've been doing are available inside the Sovereignty by Design Facebook group. Okay. And then beginning September 7th, we will have the Sovereign Sisters Salons. Did I say September 7th? That's my teenager's birthday. So that might have been slipping in there. Anyway, September 9th at 1 p.m. every other week. And we won't have one next week. Okay. Oh, I know another announcement I wanted to give you, which is that the International Human Design Conference is coming up on September 11th through 13th. And then so that's a Friday through Sunday. And then on Monday, there's a special part on business by design. And there's a variety of different people teaching that day. I'm a featured speaker, and I do have a recorded offering called Messaging Made Easy with Human Design. And you will be able to access that as a participant in the conference. And then, and it'll be live starting next week. So it'll be live before the conference actually starts because it'll be recorded. And then I'm having a live Q&A on the 14th at 9:30. So I invite you to come to that. I think it's either 30 minutes or 60 minutes. I don't remember. So let me, if I can do this. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you that link in the chat before we end. I'm not going to get thrown off by that. One of the cool things about this is, and I don't think they designed it this way, I think it was an outgrowth of kind of our human design community, our lineage of human design. Karen Curry Parker is right here. She is the kind of the matriarch of our lineage in human design. And so she, has attracted a lot of really great people. And the thing is most of this conference is going to be women. I think there's one man who's going to be presenting, and the hashtag is women in human design. So if you want to find out more about it, you can check that out. And you can also go to humandesignstore.com. And if you do use this link here, I do get a small commission from you purchasing a ticket through me. You can do it either way. It's fine with me. But I do encourage you to come. If you want to know more about human design, this is a great opportunity. And this woman right here, Amber, who I know, who's from Australia, she actually is a reflector. So she's going to be talking about reflectors. There's going to be people there talking about all of the different types. It's going to be great. And it's also really is international. There's going to be people who are going to be speaking in French, Spanish, and German. So you can invite people that you know who speak those languages if they would be interested to come and learn more about human design, and hearing it in their native language is easier for them. Okay, so let's always just take a view of the human design mandala. I love this. This is kind of the reset of our beautiful system that we're working inside of. And those of you who have been with me before will have heard this, and I always like to say it, which is that if you can get a hold of your mandala, I give them to people when they do a foundational reading with me. And they're not the easiest thing just for you to get, because you have to get them from somebody who has a professional program. But when you can, I encourage you, and you can also do it. Let me just pull this over here. You can also do this with your body graph. It doesn't have to be your mandala. Like here, if you can see this, I'm doing it up in my little window. This is my body graph, which has been laminated. And I have both my body graph and my mandala, and the mandala is up on my altar. And you don't actually have to understand what it means, because it'll just transmit to you and you can just receive it in whatever way works for you. Reflectors are defined by what they don't have. If you've been following along here, or you understand a bit about the types, a lot of the types are defined by what they do have. But then the reflectors and projectors are defined by what they don't have. Generators, whether you're a pure generator or manifesting generator, are defined by having a defined sacral, the red square down at the bottom. And then manifestors and manifesting generators have a motor to the throat, which means they have one of the 4 motors going to the throat. Projectors don't have either of those. So they don't have a sacral and they don't have a motor to the throat. Everything else is up for grabs. Reflectors are defined by that they have no definition in their channels or their centers. But they still have plenty of definition in their gates. So I want to show you what this looks like in a couple of charts of people that I've done readings for. Okay, so this is the mandala of a reflector, and you can see that all of the centers are open here. Okay, so there's no defined channels, right? And if there was a defined channel, there'd be 2 defined centers. That's how that works. Okay, so the centers that are here, the way that they get colored in or defined is when one of these lines is filled in. So and that means that there needs to be a gate on each side of in one center and then the other center, and then it's the line is colored in. So if this went all the way through, then this would define the ajna and the throat. Okay, but it doesn't go all the way through. It's only on one side. All right, I'll talk about that a little bit more when we dive into these people's charts a little bit more. So here you can see, and it's another reflector. And again, he's got plenty of definition in his gates, got lots of coloring in his gates. And this person also has plenty of definition in their gates. But these 2 are rather different from each other. So I will talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Okay, so the point I want to emphasize here, and this is true for everyone, so you can be looking at your own chart if you're not a reflector and see how this might be true for you, but it's particularly true for reflectors, okay, which is that your defined gates, but especially the double or multiply defined gates, reveal major life themes, okay? So the defined gates, especially the double or multiply defined ones, reveal major life themes. And then that's especially true for reflectors, because reflectors tend to have double or multiply defined gates. Otherwise, they would probably have channels that were defined. Okay, so let me just zero in with this person here, tell you a little bit more about what I mean. So let me just give you a little bit of a review if this is not something that you're familiar with, okay? So everyone has all of the same centers, okay? Everyone has, there's 9 centers, there's 36 channels, okay? These are all channels. The channels are what connect the centers to each other. And then there's 64 gates that are distributed throughout the body graph. And everyone has the same body graph, okay? It never changes. The numbers are in the same place, the channels are in the same place, the centers are in the same place. That's not what changes. What changes are the parts that are colored in, okay? And so for the reflectors, they don't have a situation where, like with this 61 right here, the 24 is not defined, okay? So there's no channel here, okay? There's no channel here. You can see that there's defined gates, but there's no completely defined channel. So that's what makes a reflector a reflector. But they still have the same number of planets, okay? But what differs here is that very often you're gonna see that there's more than one, either more than one planet in a gate, or a planet is showing up in the same gate more than once. So in this person's case, and this is not uncommon for anybody actually, but these are the three, well, all of these are kind of slow moving, but these three in particular are very slow moving. Okay, so we've got Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, right? And they are way out there in the solar system, right? Way out there. It takes a long time for them to move around the sun. And so, and it also takes them a long time to move around the mandala, okay? Um, and I'll dive into this a little bit more deeply with the other person's mandala, but it takes them a really long time. So as it turns out, for this person, Uranus was in the gate 44, okay, both at the moment of birth, which is what the black numbers are, and 88 days prior, 88 degrees on the mandala, but we often just say 88 days because it's easier for most people to understand. So you can see Uranus was in the same gate. So was Neptune, was in the 5, 88 days prior and at birth. And then Pluto was in the 48, both 88 days prior and at birth. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens, and I don't think this is true with this person because I was looking at it, but sometimes, especially with a reflector, you'll see one of these numbers showing up here as well. Now, the way that this translates over to the body graph here with the 48 is right here. So this is the gate 48, which is on the spleen. And this is what, when you see these checkered lines, the black and the red, it means that it's a planet or one planet or more than one planet are showing up both in the design on the red numbers and in the personality on the black numbers. Sometimes this is called unconscious and conscious. Sometimes this is called mind. Sometimes this is called body. There's lots of different ways that it gets talked about, okay? But basically there's the red numbers and then there's the black numbers. So when you see these checkerboards, you're gonna know, okay, so they are, these gates are showing up more than once. Now, sometimes you'll see that even though, let's say the 23 was only showing up as red, it's sometimes what happens is the 23 shows up more than once over here on the red side. So you really have to take a look at all the numbers and see, because you can't just tell from it being red here whether it's showing up once or twice. You really have to look at, because it might be twice on the red side or twice on the black side. I hope that makes sense. So for this reflector, you know, the gates become really important because they don't have their centers defined and they don't have their channels defined. Then the ones that are show up multiple times are major themes for them. Okay, these are big themes. So these three gates, the 48, the 44, and the 5, are really big themes for this particular reflector. Okay, their incarnation cross, which are these top 4 gates up here, are also going to be particularly significant. I mean, your incarnation cross is always significant, and especially where your personality sun is or your conscious sun is. It's kind of like your sun sign in astrology. So that's really important. And these 4 gates are also going to be important because they're in your incarnation cross. But particularly for reflectors, the place where these gates show up more than once are going to be major life themes for this person. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this other chart here, because this one is particularly interesting. So what you'll see with this person, and I chose to do this with her mandala, because this is one of the really cool things about seeing a mandala, is that it shows you what all the gates are. So let me just review here. These are the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching that are going around the outside, okay? Inside of that are the gates, okay, the 64 gates, which relate to the hexagrams, okay? There's a one-to-one relationship between them, okay? So this hexagram of the I Ching relates to this gate. And then this is the lines of where that particular, well, each gate is divided into 6 lines. Let me just leave it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. Then these are the astrology symbols around the outside, okay? And then inside of that, you'll see this is where the planets are showing up, all right? Now, one of the things that's really interesting with this person is you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gates where this person has more, either a planet is showing up twice, or there are 2 planets or that are showing up. Okay, let me see if there are ever 3. No, there aren't 3. No. So that means that these particular gates, and you'll see, just even if you glance at it, you can see that this person has more checkerboards, right? And fewer gates overall defined than this person does, right? This person has more different gates that are defined than this person does. This person really has very, very strong life themes in a few different gates. So the one that jumps out to me here is the gate 18. So here's the 18. And this is where her Jupiter, this is Jupiter, and this is Saturn. Okay, so this is both her life lesson and her blessings. So this is a huge, huge theme for her. It's in, it's right here. It comes off the spleen. And in traditional human design, it's known as the gate of correction. It's a super potent energy. It lives in the logic circuit, or the circuit of patterns, or circuit of understanding. And it is what it sounds like. It's the ability to see what's off in a pattern. I have my best friend as the gate 18, not 4 times, but she has it strong in her chart. And I actually ask her to proofread things for me, because she can find a typo in anything. She said she's never read a book where she didn't find a typo. Can you imagine? So, and it's just something that she's super attuned to, because she's got that gate 18. So when I did the reading for this person, I was like, yeah, this is a huge theme for you. And I said, do you tend to criticize other people, or do you tend to feel criticized by other people? Because it can work both ways. She's like, oh yeah. And I said, well, how is that? And she goes, well, a lot of times not so great, but sometimes really great. I said, well, here's the thing. This is a superpower, and it's really a superpower for her, because she's got it both. Like I said, she's got 2 planets. They're both in her design and her personality. And so it's a huge superpower for her, and she needs to grab a hold of the positive side of it, right? Which is to be able to kind of bring things back into harmony, bring things back into alignment. The quantum human design name for this is recalibration, right? Is bringing back things back into alignment. It's a super important thing that we need to be able to do. I mean, when I think about that, I think of that as somebody who might be an acupuncturist, right? Who's working with meridians and wanting to have all of the energies flowing through the meridians correctly, right? That could be a huge superpower for somebody who's working with energy in that way and wants to harmonize it and align it and make sure that everything is flowing correctly. Just as an example of how this person could utilize that in a super positive way. But you could also become a hypercritical person that's really, not so beloved by others, because you're always pointing out what's wrong about what they're doing, even if you're right. I mean, who wants to hear that all the time, right? So this is one of the things for any of us who have multiple definition in a particular gate. But and then especially if you've got here, she's got a triple, right? Okay, so this 33, you can't see it, it's a little off screen, but this is in the gate 33. This is another really big theme for her, because she's got the south node, and then the moon is here. So this is another really big theme for her. And she's also got Pluto in the 33. She's also got Uranus in the 14. She's also got Neptune in the 11. This is that same situation that we saw with the other person, where the outer planets are still in the same gate at birth as they were 88 days prior. Okay, so it's the same situation here, here, and here that we saw with this person down here in this part of their body graph. Okay, so this is kind of how it translates over here when you're looking at the mandala. But then you'll also see this person has Mercury and their unconscious sun, unconscious Mercury, unconscious sun in the 10, which is the gate of self-love. And so this is a super important theme for her, right? Is to be able to really embrace and express her self-love. Over here is her conscious sun, which is where she's also got her conscious Mars in the gate 25. And that is going to be a super, it's the gate of spirit, or faith in spirit, but really love of spirit. And so it's on the G center, and that's a really important one for her, because this is where her conscious sun is. But she's also got Mars, which, you know, in its higher aspect is the spiritual warrior. So if she's able to bring her spiritual warrior energy together with her sun, and then where's her moon? And when it's grounded in her research, because it's in the gate 48, which is over here. And this is really about wisdom, about knowledge and wisdom. When she can ground herself in her knowledge and wisdom, and then she can really express the self-love and also the love of spirit through with the energy of her Mars, her spiritual warrior Mars. She's going to be very, very potent. And she can do that through being able to create some harmony for the systems that she engages with and the people who are around her. Okay, so that's just a really short, there's obviously more here, but I just wanted to give you an idea for reflectors, because sometimes I hear when I've done, because I've done several readings for reflectors, it's interesting, I kind of attract reflectors. They sometimes feel like I don't have anything. I'm like, oh, no, you do. You absolutely have it. But it's concentrated, right? It tends to be concentrated. You can see how concentrated this person's life themes are, right? So that's what a reflector can do, is to really look at where are my energies concentrated, my definition concentrated. Now, the other thing to remember about reflectors, though, and about all of us, is that we all have access to all of the energies of the chart. So it's not that this reflector hasn't experienced all these other energies. She absolutely has. It's just that she doesn't experience them in a consistent way. She experiences them in a variable way, depending on who she's around, depending on who she's grown up around, because we tend to get more imprinted by the people we've grown up around, and carry that with us until we evolve out of it or just choose to affirm it when we're older. But she's experienced all the energies of the chart, just the way all of us have experienced all of the energies of the chart. Every single person alive has experienced all of them, depending on who we're around. It's just that the ones that are colored in is she's going to have a consistent, reliable, relatively fixed relationship to these energies. But when you've got your Saturn and your Jupiter together like that, this is going to be so much about life lesson, and then about receiving the blessing. And so Saturn is always about change anyway, because it is about your lesson. So it's about being able to take a hold of the lessons of your Saturn and really work that. And everybody has Saturn defined somewhere. So there's always change that's happening in the chart. But I just want you to remember, this person has experienced all of the energies. And in fact, this is one of the things that can make reflectors super powerful. So let's talk about that. So reflectors can be enormously powerful. And the way that they are, if you just think about it for a minute, if they come into a room of people, they're going to pick up energies from all the different people in the room, and they're going to amplify them. And because they are so open, they're going to be like, whoa, like, talk about radiant, right? Talk about a big aura. They're just going to be like, whoa. And so they can be enormously powerful now in any direction that they're in, right? So if they're feeling really on purpose and a sense of belonging, and that the environment that they've come into is welcoming, and that the energy has a high frequency, they can become just like beacons of light, okay, like lighthouses. And this is one of their huge benefits that they can provide to their communities. And if they walk into an environment where there's a lot of gaslighting or criticism or negativity, Armageddon thinking, right? Scarcity thinking, fear, whatever that is that they can pick up on that and amplify that. And then that can make it worse for the reflector, obviously, but it can make it worse for other people as well, right? Now, the thing is that reflectors are not doomed, just like none of us are doomed to live out our design in this way. Reflectors can, just like the rest of us, learn how to harness and manage their energy so that if they come around people with what I call negative energies or thought forms or ways of seeing the world or ways of treating each other, ways of thinking about themselves, they can learn how to hold on to their own power and their own authority. The thing is they're not going to be able to do that for really long periods of time. They can do it for shorter periods of time because it's going to mean that they're going to remember and grab a hold of and express the positive energies that they've been exposed to and that they've cultivated in themselves in their openness. But that's not something they're going to be able to hold on to for a long period of time. Just like none of us can hold on to that in our openness, but all of us can learn how to do that piece. So I hope that that's clear. If you have questions about it, it's really, really vital. And it's different than the way traditional human design thinks about these things. But it's both, Karen's bent, but also my bent from having been in the personal growth field for, 30 years. And what my experience was long before I came to human design. Okay, so because of their sensitivity and their openness, reflectors are great at discerning the energy of the space and the people in it. Okay, so they can really feel that. And so, like I said, those two different scenarios that I mentioned, they would be able to tune into what is it like in here. Okay. And they're great at feeling into and reflecting the health and well-being of their community more generally. And so it's important for reflectors to be in healthy communities. It's really hard on them if they're in an unhealthy environment. I did a reading for a woman who was a reflector, who I talked to her about this, and she had grown up in a kind of an abusive household. And she had managed to suppress her energy so much that she had actually become chronically ill. She wasn't aware of other people's energies or how it was influencing her. She said, no, other people, that doesn't happen. It's just more, I just really feel my own energy. And I was like, wow, okay. She's really taken a lot of her own energy and used it to suppress her sensitivity. So much so that it actually made her ill. So any reflectors out there, don't do that. Or any of you who are really open. I have 5 open centers. So I have learned how to really how to take care of my openness, including having, and I'll mention this in the next slide, is having a lot of time alone. Because you need that to be able to drain other people's energies out and then be discerning. So reflectors are here to be discerning because they can pick up the energy of the space and the people in it and the communities, that whether it's the families or the work situations or your place of worship or your grocery store or, your school, your kids' school, whatever it is. All of those, they are very discerning. And so reflectors are mirrors, and they can be enormously helpful to all of us by letting us know what is the kind of the deeper energy of what's happening in the community. If that makes sense, right? A lot of times we may not always be open to that, frankly, but in an evolving world, reflectors are a super vital part of the community because they can actually be discerning, and they can help those of us who are not as sensitive to understand what's going on energetically better. So some of these questions are similar to the ones for projectors, because there's actually a fair number of things that are similar among reflectors and projectors. So what am I most excited about and committed to? Now, this is important for reflectors because this is what's going to help reflectors to be able to build their stamina and to build their own energy and not to be so pushed around by other people's energies, because they're going to be generating their own energy from their excitement. I was sharing in a Q&A for my Activate Your Superpowers class yesterday that enthusiasm is your ally. Okay, and enthusiasm is an ally for all of us, but especially for projectors and reflectors. And the reason for that is that enthusiasm is the energy that will support you to take command of your openness. And what is enthusiasm? I love the actual the old definition of it is what makes the God within you dance. What makes the God within you dance? Right? So what does make you dance? Like, what brings about that type of energy? And if you think about that and being able to embody that and express it, that is going to lead you out of disappointment and into satisfaction. And it's going to help you to be able to harness the power of your own energy and to refuel yourself and not to be a sponge for other people's energies so much. So another question, am I feeling disappointed or satisfied, right? Because if you're feeling disappointed, which is the negative theme of the reflector, then, you really look at that and go, well, what's going on in my environment? What's going on with my community? What's going on with the people that I live with? What's going on with my work, whether that's I'm working in a company or I have my own business? Am I connected to what I'm excited about? Am I connected to what I'm committed to? And to what I'm enthusiastic about? Am I enthusiastic about anything? How can I get more enthusiastic if I am not already? Then, of course, am I resting enough and getting enough alone time? Because anyone who has this much openness is going to need to be able to dissipate that energy out of their field so that they can come back to center and really feel what's true for them. And I was doing some coaching, and again, in this live session I was doing for my Activate Your Superpowers class yesterday, and a projector and I were talking about this, and she said, well, one of the things I've learned is, I need to, really take some time on my own to make some important decisions. And I've sort of thought of that as, a weakness in myself. And she only had 2 centers defined, 2 or 3. I think she had 3 centers defined. No, she was a manifestor, that's right, but she only had 3 centers defined. And I said, I don't think that's a weakness at all. I think that's really smart. That's really smart. You have to take time alone so that you can know what's true for you. Because when you have that much openness, you have, 6 centers open, 7 centers open, all your centers open, you're going to be impacted by other people's ideas and, their what's going on in their G center and their direction and their identity and their emotions and, all of it, right? So make sure you're doing that. And then patience is even more important for a reflector than it is for a projector, because the strategy for the reflector is to wait 28 days, wait a moon cycle. It's actually 29 and a half days to make decisions. And I would say especially important decisions, big decisions. And sometimes it's even more than 1 moon cycle. Like, reflectors really need time. And so it's important to cultivate patience if you're a reflector. And if you love a reflector, it's important for you to be patient with them and give them the time that they need to make the decisions that are right for them. And in our world today, that is not generally well accepted or well appreciated. But the reflector who has taken adequate time will make the best decisions and will be an enormous ally for herself and for her family and for the people around her. And then, how can I trust my inner guidance? This is a big question for reflectors, because their inner guidance, depending on what gates they have defined, right? If they have a lot of gates in the knowing circuit, then they're going to be getting in that information from, super consciousness. It just depends on what gates they have defined, but it also has to do with that tuning in for a moon cycle. Some people interpret it meaning you tune into the guidance of the moon. Others interpret it that it's just you're taking the time over that moon cycle, because that moon cycle is actually impacting everything on Earth, because we know that the moon is impacting the tides. right? All day, every day. It never change. It never stops happening. It's incrementally changing where the tide is. Um, but we are 70% water. And so we're being impacted by the moon also. Our tides are continually changing and morphing. And so for reflectors, they're tuning in to the nuances of that in through their own systems and in their own water. And it's a beautiful thing when allowed to be given the space for them to really feel into that. So if you're a reflector, I really want to encourage you to take that time and space for yourself. And if you love a reflector, for you to give that to them. All right, good. Just about complete here. I just want to remind you, please join us at the International Human Design Conference coming up in just a few weeks. And I guess it's 2.5 weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks. It's going to be great. You can go and check out the different talks that people are doing. And I'm really delighted. I feel honored to have been asked to be a featured speaker, and I hope that you'll come and check out what I'm doing there as well. And when I stop this sharing this, I'll put that that link in the chat. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, and I'm going to take a sip of water. Ah, okay. Let me just get you that. Hold on a second here. Is that? Okay, so there's the link to the so please join us at the International, I'm just doing this on Facebook, Human Design Conference, September 11th through 14th. Okay, great. All right, so let's see what y'all want to talk about. Okay. All right, Sandy, who is our reflector here, so she's never met another reflector anymore. So yeah, okay. Yeah, oh, good. So you said you can relate to this. Excellent. So I'm not sure what that Kaya or Kia, what your this means. Oh, and you know what? Is everybody? You know what? I did this wrong. I do this. You have to make sure to be sending it to everyone and not just the panelists. That makes me laugh. All right, there we go. Okay, yeah. So tell me what struck you here, what questions you have, any reflections that you have about anything that was shared today. All right, we have a few minutes that I have. No, okay, no questions that came in that way. It's your turn. And I'd love to hear from you, Sandy, a little bit about how this lands for you. Do you feel like I nailed it? Or are there other things that are good for us to know about reflectors? And that goes for you also who are there live with us on Facebook. Okay, well, if we don't have any comments, okay, so Catherine says, okay, here we go. Catherine says, really appreciated the explanation of the definition of the channels. Had not understood why some are both red and black. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, channel, well, it's the gates. And then if it is a whole defined channel, then it will. But sometimes you'll even see half the channel is red and black and the other half is just black. Because one gate is double defined. So it's the gates that are multiply defined, not so much the channels. But anyway, yeah, so that's why they're like that. Okay. So Sandy says, I'm still very uneducated about the whole human design thing, but what you discussed was exactly me. Oh, I'm so glad. Especially the part about making decisions. That is so hard for me and others around me, that I take time before committing. Um, yeah, I know. And I think this is hard for projectors and reflectors, especially because they both have more weighting in their design. You just need time, although anyone who's emotionally defined also needs time to make decisions. It's different than for projectors and reflectors. It's a different situation. And I did do a whole training on that under authority. If you haven't seen that already, you can go check out that webinar to see what I mean. But people who are emotionally defined need time to make decisions. Projectors and reflectors need time to make decisions. Aaron was recently teaching, which I thought was very interesting, which was people who have the integration circuit, which I have a lot of the integration circuit, also need time. I think it's time because we need time to integrate. And I have found that I'm not emotionally defined and I'm a generator. So theoretically, I have instant knowing in the now. That's the way I was, the kind of traditional human design person I originally had my reading from. That's what he told me, but it never quite sat right with me. And so it was interesting to me when she said, yeah, people with a lot of the integration circuit need time. So I think the big message for me around that with human design is a lot of us need more time to make decisions than we're generally given, or that we're generally taught is true. And unfortunately, a lot of marketing that's out there plays on our fear and our scarcity, and does a lot of scarcity stuff, which I refuse to do in my marketing. Like I sometimes like to do a fast acting bonus. Like I like to give people, the first 5 people who registered for my Activate Your Superpowers class, I did give them a 15-minute reading. I do like to do that, but then I also like to have a bonus that's for everybody, right? So I gave the $200 off to everybody because sometimes people need a little more time. So, it's a mix that way. But anyway, so I would just say, please do give yourself the time as you need it. Okay. So, number understood the gates were defined and showed up that way. Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. And then Kia says, thank you. I heard that these 1% are leaders in the world, good or bad. I could resonate as an empath. They can be, because they are enormously powerful, but they can also be really disempowered if they're not taking a hold of their energy, and if they don't know how to manage their energy, and they don't take enough alone time, and they don't get enough rest. So it can go either way. Same is true for projectors. Oh, we have another reflector here over on Facebook. That's great. Tara Chang is a reflector. Excellent. And just so you know, Sandy, if you're not in the Facebook group already, go in and message to Tara, and because she's another reflector. If you want to meet another reflector, you two might have a good conversation with each other. Okay, so she says, how many gates would one need in the knowing circuit to have a big impact? I have about half of them. Half of them, that's a lot. That's a lot, Tara. That's a lot. It can be as few as 3 or 4, depending on where they are, especially if you have these. Okay. But the 57, which is the traditional human design gate of intuition, as if it was on only one place, which it's not, it's all over the chart. But if you have half of your gates are in the knowing circuit, full on, you have major intuition through the knowing circuit. And I would think that that's true. Is that true for you, Tara? Let me know. I mean, that means that you have access to super consciousness. Do you have, what is it, the 6124? Is it the 24? Yeah, 61, 24, 43, 23, like either of those, because those are, direct line in. I mean, I have just the 61, but then I also have the 57, also the 12. So I have it in different parts. And I relate to that very much so, like knowing, I just know things. I didn't learn it anywhere. It's just a part of what I just get it, you know, and I also receive downloads. And I would imagine if you're still there, I would love to hear from you if that resonates for you. Tara, I'm not sure if you're still there or not. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Sandy says, thank you. All right. We're coming up on the end of our time here. All right. Well, I want to thank those of you who are not reflectors for being here, as well as the reflectors for being here. Like I said, I think it's really important. I wish there were more people who would learn about reflectors because they are really important people. Okay, good. So Tara says, does that knowing relate to having to wait your 28 days? So here's the thing I would say is the human design system is complex. And so there's lots of different elements, okay? And we're talking about two different elements, right? One is your authority, which is waiting the 28 days. The other is your circuitry, which is having so much in the knowing circuit. So there are two different aspects that are, if you can, ideally, you want them to dance together. You want to feel like there's a creative tension between them rather than feeling like they're butting heads with each other, which sometimes, you know, there's usually some kind of creative tension in any chart. And sometimes there's multiple ones. And the thing I would say for you, Tara, is experiment and see what's true for you. One of the things you might do is look back at your life experience and see, in particular, before you knew human design, and see times that maybe that you waited for a month to make a decision, or a period of time, a significant period of time, a few weeks, and times when you didn't. And times when you were really tuning into that knowing, that inner knowing, and times when you weren't. And just start to track for yourself, what is that like? Because you may find that for certain things, your inner knowing is strong enough, and you may get a full body yes from that inner knowing, or just a deep sense of certainty that maybe you don't need to wait 28 days. With other things, you might want to do both. And so what I always like to say is human design is not a formula, okay? And it's not written in stone. And I know some people really teach it that way, and they talk about it as a set of rigid rules that you have to follow. And the way that I really receive it and understand it and teach it is that they're guidelines, and we're all different. And human design is a snapshot at the moment of your birth and 88 degrees prior on the mandala. And so it's a snapshot. It doesn't tell you how you've lived your life. It doesn't tell you who you grew up around. It doesn't tell you what you've already learned in your soul curriculum. Okay, it doesn't tell you any of that. That's all for you to discern by looking at your life experience and honoring your life experience. And then human design can help you see maybe where you've had blind spots, or where you've been living in shadow, or you've been working against your kind of higher superpowers. It can show you those things. But ultimately, it's for every one of us to experiment and see what works for us, because the system always leads us back to ourselves and says, what's true for you? So I would say, what do you think about that? And you may not have an answer right now, and it may be different at different times. So I would just start playing around with it and experimenting and tracking it and seeing for yourself, because you may try it one way and then go, oh, that didn't work out so well. Or I tried it that way, but you know, I waited 28 days, but I actually knew like that. Like I had my inner knowing already knew, and I waited 28 days, but it turns out I didn't need to wait that long. Okay. So I think, you know, for important decisions, if you can, I would say, wait, give it some time. And the inner knowing sometimes also needs time. And what I have found with my inner knowing is, just because I receive a download doesn't mean it's the right time to implement it. It doesn't mean it's the right time to take action on it. And that's where we also have to keep asking is this the right time? because it may be the right action, but it still might not be the right time. And that's part of that tuning in for you as a reflector to that 28 days. All right. I hope that makes sense. All right. All right. All right. So we've got more thank you. And Sandy says, great discussion. Thank you for doing this, Maggie. Go Reflectors. Woo, woo. Yes, go Reflectors. I know. I really would love to have more people learn about Reflectors. All right, Tara. Oh, she says, awesome. Thank you. Good. Glad that was helpful. Many blessings to all of you. Yes, we're at the top of the hour. And much love. And remember, there's no webinar next week. And in 2 weeks, I'll be back with Valencia Ray. We'll be talking about health sovereignty. And I will actually be streaming that from my Sovereignty by Design business page rather than inside the Facebook group. So check your email for that, because I'll be letting you know, and also check inside the Facebook group if you're not there already, and I'll be letting you know there too. And if you haven't gone over to my Sovereignty by Design business page, please go over there and like it and follow it. There's not a lot on there yet. I haven't had time to really start building and teaching on it, but the Sovereign Sister Salons is going to be the next thing that really kind of gets that going. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.